Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Camppatton Family Compound. It is time for Friday night on the Homestead, and tonight's topic is how city civil unrest impacts rural areas. But it's going to go a lot more and go vice versa as well as we go along here. So, man, I was doing so great talking with my grandsons, no coughing, and about 15 minutes ago, started coughing, and an idiot here forgot to fill my water up. So it's not going to be drinking it normally through the straw. I'm going to have to whatever little water in here. Oh, yeah, I may need to go make a trip going into the kitchen, fill it up. All right, let's see who's all here. First one in was Crew 1351, followed by Galen Strain and Diana. And I think those are the only ones been commenting so far. I have noticed something weird, though. The numbers up here that I can see, you guys can't, shows how many people are supposedly watching. Well, with Kaylin, Crew, and Diana, there's 3, and it's supposed to count myself on the computer over here, the Camppatton computer. It should say 5 or 4, and it's gone up to as high as 8 and down to 3, and up a couple and then down. So I guess I've been having a bunch of trolls coming in and just they see, oh, we can't do. We have to subscribe to make comments. We're out of here. I'll get some water in a little bit here. I do have, yeah, that's that one. All right, yeah, these are the heavy duty chloroseptic ones. I'll take a minute to go. All right, so tonight's topic the civil unrest can be a bunch of different things. I've been doing some research on it, seeing, I had this in the queue for a while, but the stupidity going on in Minnesota, and of course, always going on in San Francisco Bay Area. I started looking some things up. Things really get twisted around in ways we don't generally expect. So, come on, there we go. It can be just a peaceful protest that causes all sorts of problems. However, a peaceful protest of blocking traffic technically is no longer peaceful because they are impacting others. And they can cause traffic jams and all sorts of crap. And I have not seen a, quote, peaceful traffic disruption in 30 years. Because you always get the ones out there that say, oh, we can misbehave out here. And they start throwing things at the cars that honk at them and stuff like that. That's no longer peaceful then. And they start getting violent on it. So it's obviously no longer peaceful. But they block off traffic to areas that now causes trucks to try to have limited by, and if trucks are limited by the way where they can drive and they can't go around, then they got to reach out to the city and say, hey, we need waivers here. We need escorts into these areas we're not supposed to be driving on because our trucks might be a little too heavy, so we can get to our deliveries and stuff. It becomes a real pain in the Moon Over Miami's here. It gets to be a real pain in the butt for truck drivers and stuff to get supplies where they need to go. That's just one part of the problem. All these people stopped in traffic, they're supposed to be going to work. If they can't get to their jobs, the companies can't produce whatever they're supposed to be producing, which means they're not going to meet their production schedules, which means the companies that they're making, that, all right, say company A, it gets delayed. The widget that company A makes, company B needs that widget to produce their gonzo. Now they can't produce their gonzo because they don't have the widget to produce. They need to produce the gonzo. Now they're delayed, and company D that need the gonzo to produce the whatchamacallit, you can see how, the domino effect of delays happen. So just a simple, quote, peaceful protest can have expanding ramifications that most people don't take into account. Now it starts getting political, a little bit larger, and impacting, targeting specific suppliers and stuff, like at the ports where shipping is coming in. Doesn't matter if they're protesting one country, they're interfering with the goods coming in from a different country now. And so just that you can see how that one kind of builds. And see, sometimes shipping companies, if they pick up over in China, they're not just picking up from from China. The port over there picking up from has received the cargo containers from several different countries over there, Vietnam, Taiwan, wherever. And now there's other countries impacted there because their stuff is being shipped on the cargo. Damn, the cargo ship that's coming out of a Chinese port, or from an Indonesian port, or from a South African port, or from a Middle East port. You get multiple people. You get some country builds a nice port, and they got stuff. They ship it by truck or by rail to that port, so they can ship from that port. And a bunch of different countries' cargo containers get placed on the cargo ship. And if the protesters are protesting whatever country that port is in, now you see there's going to be problems in the cities stopping stuff going out to the rural areas. And if the cargo containers are delayed, once again, it goes to, sometimes it's production materials coming in. It's other things. And so now you have trailers sitting there empty at the ports, not going out. Yes, Kaylin, exactly. Yes. And if it's coming from South America and South Africa, sometimes that's going to be food items. Well, I'm talking about like bananas, strawberries, stuff that we can't grow here in the wintertime. So they're grown down there and they're shipped up here in the wintertime. Yeah. But the trucks, you have trucks waiting at the port to get loads And instead of it being constantly making deliveries this way, that way, back and forth, these trucks are now sitting. So other areas and other cargo isn't moving either. Woohoo! All right, there's a joke about Artemis splashing down. There have been a bunch of different memes telling the people that are going out to pick them up to get Planet of the Apes costumes. So when they pop open the crew, they, a orangutan or a gorilla or a chimpanzee is looking at, are you okay? Anyways, all right, let's get back serious again. See, I grew up on the original Planet of the Apes of Charlton Heston. All right. So by delaying trucks, it's a domino effect delaying other shipments going in. I'm glad you like that, Mark. Mark's joined us. And so because of, it's like building a house of cards. You pull something out and all of a sudden you got problems over here. And so, yeah. Now the items coming out to the rural areas, don't take offense on this. I'm going to name some stores: Dollar General, Dollar Tree, General, Family Dollar. Yeah. They make a lot of stuff, or they sell a lot of stuff that comes from overseas. Now suddenly the poor redneck store, and I hate that term because out here we call it something else, is we call it the trailer trash store. Doesn't have certain things to sell. Ow, that one hurt. And so there's going to be delays of stuff out in the, going out to the rural areas. It's going to impact rural areas, and that's going to cause a whole nother problem. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I just want to kind of throw that one out there, get that thought process thinking that. Exactly, Kaylin. I was going to talk about trains too. Yeah, and so like they'll load cargo containers, back in the Midwest, ship it to the big cities. You get to the rail yards in the big cities, and all the trucks are sitting down at the port waiting for the protesters to stop protesting so the port can get back to business. Now all those trailers that would have been taking more stuff to the rail yard can be put on trains to go back to the Midwest, aren't coming. So the trains now is having to stash rail cars somewhere, but they can't empty rail cars because there's no trailers to empty them onto. Yeah. And so you can just start, it's almost like having a big wall map, like for the crime scene thing. They're putting a pin in here, doing over here, putting a pin, that pin goes over there. This one here goes up there. Another yarn going over here, and this pin goes up. They make, it's just sort of like make a freaking spider web up there. Now, sometimes it's a work-related civil unrest, a labor strike. And it could be anywhere from longshoremen to Teamsters to electricians to maintenance workers for buildings and factories. It could be a particular. I'll give you an example. Signal Corporation, which makes signal strapping, also makes Pasolid nails and nail guns, has factories across the United States. There's one in Pittsburgh, California, where my dad retired from. However, their ownership was smart enough to make a deal with the union for the main plant back in the Midwest. They call them, and they deal fairly with the union and stuff, and they try to be honest with the union and everything, with the dealings there and everything else. That is the only store or only plant that is unionized, because the other plants, they pay them exactly whatever they have to pay the union workers at that plant. So the workers at all the other plants will not unionize. And they because the workers at that plant have to pay union dues. The other workers don't, so that's more money in their pocket. The union at first was grumping and about it and stuff. They go, hey, either you can keep this one plant union or we go totally non-union at all the plants. And the union went, okay. And so, like, when they do go on strike, it's usually no more than 2 weeks. The union is smart enough to do it. Okay, they got to do their summer shutdown. Okay, we're going to strike on this day. And by the time the 2 weeks maintenance for the plant's over with, they've hammered out a new agreement. So for that company, the impact is non-existent because they got to shut down anyways to do their maintenance. And so, as in usually when they shut down to do maintenance, soon as they're back up, they had another plant would shut down, and another plant. They go through all the plants in order. And that way, they really don't impact their maintenance is not impacted. They don't shut all of them down at once, but that way they keep producing stuff. And Mark says alternate ego has arrived. Now I mentioned that the impact of the civil unrest and in the cities impacts the rural areas. Now I'm going to explain a little bit how it goes in a vicious circle. See if I can do. Hopefully this works right here. Okay, so city civil unrest equals production delays or transportation disruption to rural areas. All right, so that can lead to shortages for rural areas of supplies, parts, lumber, and other things like that. Now, some of the items they coming out there from the quote cities, example the the stupid idiots there in California in the San Francisco Bay Area protest and shut down the freeways and stuff, they wind up disrupting or at least they used to, because they disrupt several of the refineries. Workers can't get in. And they also they'll block trucks going to and from the refineries. They'll try sitting on the railroad tracks, which historically has not ended good for anybody sitting on the railroad tracks protesting, because they don't realize it takes 1.5 miles for a freight train hauling cars of crude oil to stop. And by then they're already 1/2 mile past where they're 1/2 mile past the spot where the protester was sitting. But some shortage of city-made stuff, parts and stuff going out to the rural areas for parts for farm equipment, for tractors being imported, stuck at the shipping docks. Sometimes the stuff has been shut down at the docks there for months, before they finally get caught back up with their getting stuff on the road again. Now, the parts and stuff aren't getting out to the rural areas where the farmers need it to repair tractors. And now tractors aren't running. Whatever the farmer is producing, whether he's growing potatoes, alfalfa, sugar beets, beef, whatever he's growing now, he's having problems with, corn, whatever. Now there could be problems out there for that. But so shortages in the rural area equals production delays and cost increase. Because if they got to buy parts elsewhere and pay for, expedited shipping from other parts of the country, yeah. So now the rural areas that has production delays and cost increase, that equals to shortages and increased costs for the cities, which gets the snowflakes whining. Why is our vegetables cost so much? Why is the cost of beef going up? We need to protest this. Can you see the stupid circle caused by disrupting city productions? Oh, we need to be in solidarity and punish. Yeah. They don't realize they're punish everyone, including themselves. Oh, all right. So, hang on here. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the crazy rabbit hole. The stupid civil unrest that the protesters don't realize how it turns around and bites, as my grandmother would say, it turned around and bit them in the ass twice. Hey, Mark.
Hey, I forgot to put my microphone back on. Hello.
There it is.
I have a headset where you rotate the microphone up. It says mute on, and it was up in the air. I'm like, hello. My microphone's up.
The microphone's aiming that direction.
Oh, it's aiming at space, waiting for Unrest to talk to it. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, hang on, question here. It used to
we can't do it now. We don't want to offend anybody.
Back in the 60s and 70s and even the 80s, it was easy. There were more supplies stored elsewhere for distribution. And so like stuff from the cities and stuff, they were moving it out to more rural areas. All right, I'll give you example, California. From stuff manufactured in the San Francisco Bay Area was immediately moved out of the San Francisco Bay Area to Stockton and Modesto. And there are huge warehouses out there. And they would ship it there, and it would be organized, and from there it'd be shipped to Milwaukee, Dallas, St. Louis, wherever it needed to go, Seattle, Los Angeles. And what happened is some stupid idiots froze there for a second. Some stupid idiots got the idea of, oh, we don't need to do that. We can get rid of some of these distribution areas and send and ship other stuff. My uncle used to work at a shipping, one of the ones out there, and they got laid off. They closed several of these shipping sub centers. I don't know what you want to call them. And these things acted as a buffer for the stuff going from point A to point B, so that if there was a delay in the cities and stuff, there wouldn't be as problem. The other big problem was that in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there weren't as big of idiots protesting. You didn't have the idiots shutting down Interstate I-80, shutting down 580, 96, all the ones in there in the East Bay, which screws up the entire Bay Area manufacturing stuff. Even though it's not down in San Jose, it screws with San Jose. And now
the problem is they don't get snow there, so they don't have plows on their trucks to help clear the roads.
Yeah, that would be nice. That's the secondary part. That's the part where, because back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s in California, before it was California, you had Reagan and Arnold and others, others of a non-communistic party that weren't passing BS they weren't actually laws. I'm going to call it sort of like mandates. We will not interfere with the protesters. I mean, California Highway Patrol was told for several years by Jerry Brown, aka Governor Moonbeam, you will not interfere with the protesters. This is a peaceful protest. Yeah, until I start breaking windows of cars. And I remember the one time they were throwing stuff like bottles at cars and stuff. Somebody in the car stepped out, was carrying his license concealed carry, got hit with a bottle, pulled his concealed carry, and shot the dude. All the protesters fled the scene. Wow. It opened up in 5 minutes. Well, except for the fact that there was a body laying there, and the Highway Patrol had to go up now and remove the body. They had to
shut the road down because it's a murder scene.
No, the guy didn't die. He was sitting there crying like a whiny butt because he got shot in the gonads. Yeah.
He was just early to the transitional phase.
Yeah. Yes, Diana, exactly. you can assemble to protest, but you can't do anything else. You can't, the quote, the assembly to protest, everyone can assemble, say what they want to do, exercise their free speech amendment. As soon as they impact on anybody else's freedom to move around, then it's no longer an assembly. And technically it's unconstitutional. But you get these stupid idiots. Oh, we need to give them a permit to protest. We need to give them a permit to have a parade, a protest parade. It was funny. There were several cities in the East Bay. We need to get a permit for our parade. Nope, we don't give permits out for parades for any type of protest, period. No matter who it is, blanket. Nobody, right wing, left wing, independent, nobody gets one. And a couple of attorneys that challenged that lost in court and had to pay all the court costs and stuff to the city. But yeah, it's, that's part of the problem is we've gotten these bad public servants who think they are leaders and are trying to be leaders rather than servants. Oh, we need to protest this. I would like to see some of them. Some cities don't even let them do park permits anymore because it costs the city so much money for all the damage and stuff. Because they're no longer an assembly. It's pardon my French, it's a shit show. With indecent clowns and but one of the things that really gets me is that these protesters get out there protesting one thing, cause a problem they're not thinking they're causing. That problem causes another problem, which causes another problem, which causes out in the rural area to have a problem they weren't planning on either. Now the farmers can't do stuff, or the stuff that's manufactured out in the rural areas can't get processed because they weren't able to get the maintenance equipment or the maintenance supplies they needed to keep their operation going. It's the stupidity of these people not realizing the problems they're causing for everybody. One of the problems I remember and there was a big blow up about this 35 years ago. Was it more? And it's more than that. It was probably closer to 40 years ago because it was before I got married. There was a protest going on, and one of the things that happened from that was a manufacturing company that was making chainsaw blades, sawmill blades, both the bandsaw ones as well as the big flat, 10-foot tall circular ones. Couldn't get the steel they were supposed to be getting shipped to them so they can make the products to send to the lumber companies. And then all of a sudden the sawmills were shut down because they had some bandsaws break and
can't cut lumber, and then it goes downhill into the construction business and Lowe's and Home Depot, and
it's exactly what happened.
Prices go through the roof because supply and demand, and yeah.
Exactly, Diana, and that's what's so sad about it. And the thing is that the thing with the sawmills and stuff, that they got hit by two different protests. The one protest that hit the company that manufactured their blades, and the tree huggers that were spiking trees.
Mm-hmm. That's why they needed to do blades, because they kept hitting steel and blowing stuff up and hurting people. And
yeah. Anyway, so my whole object tonight wasn't to whine about this, was to give you guys some points to understand that when you hear a protest going on in the city, in another city, LA, San Francisco, Portland, it's going to affect the rest of the country, because LA has the port of Long Beach, the port of Oakland, port of Seattle, Portland.
It's cause and effect. It's like, you remember watching like those world record dominoes that they tip them over and castles fall down. It starts with one domino, runs down a line of single dominoes. It's like, okay, it affects that, affects that, affects that. Then it hits 2, 3, 10, 12, 100,000, and it just goes parabolic until everything's affected. Now, that may not happen from your local protest in your town. It might affect a few things short term, but if it goes big enough in the city and really starts going long term, then it's a trickle effect. Even though things might get back up and running in a day or two, you got 7 to 12 days of certain things that are going to take for them to get redone, because they're waiting on stuff, and further down the line it goes.
Yeah.
Protests stop. They don't immediately get lumber to start to finish building that house they were building that they already invested $1 million in.
Yeah, it's again, for the lumber, it's going to take now once the company that manufactures the saw blades, the bandsaw blades and the circular saw blades for the mills, it's going to take them several days. Hey, Prep for the Ages is here. It's going to take them several days at least to, once they get their supplies, then it's going to take them time to start gearing things back up.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're one of these processes that runs 24/7, because now they're gonna have to heat stuff back, heat furnaces up, get the everything heated back up again, all the rollers and everything else, and then start production. It could be a week or two before they start getting stuff out the door to ship to the lumber mills.
Well, not even out the door, before they can start stacking and racking to get things ready to fill a truck or 20 to ship it to the stores or wherever it needs to go. So yeah, they've already depleted their supply of what they had. Now they have empty lots. So yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so then that affects the, sorry, hang on.
Ooh, that's one of them sneezy coughs. Those things are terrible. You don't know whether you're coughing or sneezing at the same time. Now he's laughing.
Oh man, I could feel that one deep. So the lumber is going to be delayed, which means the construction workers on their building the houses are delayed. Oh, wait a minute. Since the homes are being delayed, being framed up, that means that the plumbers aren't able to run the plumbing. The electricians aren't running around the wiring. The roofers can't roof. The siding guys can't siding.
No, and they're not waiting around for it to end. They got other jobs. So they went and did other stuff. Now the thing that was getting built is delayed more than just waiting for the lumber to show up. It's now these plumbers are like, well, I had to take another job because we weren't making money. So it'll be 6 weeks before I get there, and electricians, everybody else. So yeah, it's a huge, everything affects everything.
Yeah. And then on top of that, they don't put in the sidewalks and the curbs and the driveways until construction on the house is done. and they don't pave the street until just about everything is done, because there's always a ubugu, and they got to go, oh crap, something happened with the line out to the sewer. We're testing it. We got to redig the line to the sewer. I've seen that happen so many friggin' times. So yeah, it's one of those things that just keeps, what is it? It's a gift that keeps on giving. I'm not going to sing the song. It popped in my head about this is the song that never ends. Yeah. And so, yeah, it takes, it can take months for production to catch back up again. But yeah, like Diane was saying there, it's lack of will and cowardice. And it's a little bit more than just lack of will and cowardice. It's somebody who's getting other money for different projects and stuff being paid under the table. So the state's not acting upon it the way they should by passing certain legislation to make these protests illegal and to end them quickly. Gee, why does the name Waltz suddenly jump into my head over that one? I don't know. It just jumped in there, folks. All right. Let me get rid of that. Hit that. All right. I want to get this up here to do that, so I can bring that up in a second. Saturday on Gray Man Prepping is going to be, the topic is, after the gold and silver is confiscated, what are your plans now? I have good news and bad news on that front, and so we'll talk about that then. Monday, back here on Camppatton Family Compound, Tammy got us special guest, Pascal Bowder.
And, like, yeah. think of it like computer speed, baud rate, Bauder.
So he'll be in discussing the stuff about his books and the other things he makes and stuff and does. Tammy's saying he's sort of a one-stop shop for all things foraging and
preserving, fermenting. Yep.
Yeah.
Cooking.
Mm-hmm. So, so I didn't catch this one sooner. Yes. All right.
I have before you go on, I have the easiest way to think about the cause and effect thing. So you got traffic moving down a highway, nice and easy. Everybody's doing the speed limit, sort of congested, but everybody's moving. One person taps the brake pedal. The person behind them taps the brake pedal a little harder, and back it goes. Anybody ever been in traffic when you're sitting there like, what is going on? Why is everybody come to a stop? And you look at the map, it's like 3 miles of slow moving traffic, and it's continually going backwards. And when you get up to where it starts moving again, there's nothing there. All it took was one person to cut somebody off, and 3 people hit the brakes to slow down. Everybody behind them goes backwards, and eventually it comes to a dead stop, and it just keeps piling up all the way back to the previous city 100 miles earlier. Yeah. Nobody knows why. There's a backup. Why? Nobody knows. It's just back. That's traffic. Rush hour.
I've seen it enough to know exactly why. Some idiot wasn't using his turn signal and cut somebody else off.
Oh, yeah, there's that, or a cat ran out in the street, or it could be anything. I'm just basic.
I've seen that so bad on Highway 24 going into from the East Bay into Oakland. Some idiot will try and hot rodder, and he cut several people off. I can see behind me the brake lights, the red lights, and the go behind me. The cars behind me and their headlights dipping and stuff, and this one car going like this. And 5 minutes later on the news, We don't know what happened, but this, we now have stopped traffic on 24 and 680. I know exactly.
People getting on the entrance ramps, and that's like, why is traffic not moving? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the supply chain type issue. I mean, it's that simple to think of. It can literally, depending on what it is, or protest, whatever, it can affect pretty much everything if it's big enough or goes long enough.
Yeah, and
location matters.
It's just not a break in traffic, to absorb it. All right, Tuesday on Gray Man Prepping, are you romancing disasters? Thursday is the Midnight Ride. Next Friday here is biomass for the homestead. And I'm going to try to get some video tomorrow if it's not raining too hard. Let me see what it says here. I got 20% chance in the morning, 80% chance of rain. Come on, give me the time. It looks like 6 o'clock in the evening. So if it doesn't rain in the morning, I'll be out there with my tractor getting footage of me moving biomass into my garden. So, yeah. So that's what's coming up, folks. Hope you got some ideas of stuff to realize when you see something going on in a certain area, and if you notice, wait, last time they had a riot there, 2 weeks later we had a shortage of this here. Maybe you ought to go get a couple extra things of whatever that you might need to make sure you have enough to get through the hard time there. All right, everyone, we're going to wrap it up here now. Thank you all for coming in. Thank you for all your comments. Mark, thank you for joining me up here.
Sure.
Everyone, remember, if you have room to have a garden, grow it. You'll save money, and you won't have to worry about a bunch of BS going on. All right, everyone, take care.
Have a good night.
And let's see how long this takes.